we'll see what we can find to talk about. How you doing, Matt?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, it's kind of the theme of the last few episodes. Not a whole lot of exciting stuff, but we'll get into what we can tonight.
The whole kind of world of entertainment is on a standstill. It's kind of hard to keep a ton of information flowing, but we did get some stuff. Probably the biggest thing that we've heard about recently was that there's a Wakanda series in the works that will be coming to Disney Plus. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean the key phrase there is in the works. It's kind of confirmed that they're working on it, but haven't released anything else yet. Ryan Coogler thankfully is involved. He of
Right.
course writer director of the first Black Panther, involved in the second, the sequel coming up here. The big thing for me is how much he'll be directly involved. Is he going to be writing and directing a bunch of it, just kind of doing some creative input, direct a little bit? Because if he's really running the show on it, if he's the true showrunner, I think it's going to be fantastic. And if he's not, I think it'll be very good. So, yeah. I mean, with the track record they've got, as long as Feige is in charge of everything, I'm just going to sit back and just let these things come. There's probably going to be more. And until they prove otherwise, I'll be excited for anything else they announce for as far as the Marvel or MCU goes.
And it sounds like they're going to be really leaning into doing series now. It seems like that's going to kind of be a transition, a way to go for things here, because they already, have the ones that they've already done that are lined up and coming out, and now having this, and the pandemic probably doesn't hurt them making that decision, because going to a theater is kind of out of, it's not an option in a lot of places. So. But like you said, with Ryan Coogler's involvement, that kind of makes me a little bit excited. He, of course, did the first one. He's doing the second one. He did Fruitvale Station, and he did Creed, both with Michael B. Jordan. So, yeah, I think his involvement is a good sign. And here's the thing. Is it going to follow, Black Panther at all? If Shuri becomes the Black Panther, will she be a major part, or is this going to be like a separate, follows just Wakanda and the people of Wakanda kind of going through, different tribals and stuff like that there?
I'd kind of like to see them go that route. Save the big Black Panther epic action parts for the movies. And then, there's a lot of interesting characters that we saw just kind of for fleeting moments in the first movie. And there's definitely stories that they could tell that'd be great for a season-long arc. And I obviously, Shuri's Black Panther will have to play some sort of part, whether she's comes in at the in the season finale or is kind of in and out. But I would love to see them kind of focus elsewhere and leave the Black Panther stories for the movies.
Which I think is what they would do. I mean, because they said a Wakanda series, they didn't even say a Black Panther series. So I think that is going to plan to focus on Wakanda, the people of Wakanda, and then let Black Panther. Have their own kind of movies and adventures in film. So, well, let's see. Tom Holland, he had an interview recently, and some other different Spider-Man 3 news has kind of popped up, just miscellaneous stuff. I know something that stood out in the interview to you that he mentioned.
I mean, obviously for me, anytime James Bond gets mentioned, antennas are going to go up for me. And Tom Holland did say he'd love to play James Bond. He said he looks great in a suit, which I don't doubt. And, for a couple of years now, I've been really interested in the idea of a young James Bond, whether it's just a one-off movie or a trilogy or a TV show or something like that. And so when I was thinking about this today, Tom Holland as Bond, obviously, give us Letitia Wright as Q, give me Timothée Chalamet as the villain, and Florence Pugh in the Felix Leiter role. Done. Yeah. I'm excited for any Bond movie. That's been mentioned a few times before. It'll probably be mentioned a few times more as this goes on. But that if they go a young James Bond route, that core four as a cast, I think that could set up to be just an awesome story and be something different for this series. They're about to be 25 movies in. If they're looking for a way to reinvent the series just as a whole, even if it's just for a one movie, kind of a little Daniel Craig's done. Let's get a little stopgap in, give people some reprieve, and then get back into the more traditional entries. I'd be all in for that. Completely in. I've thought Holland would be great in that sense. We'll see what happens. Obviously, that's just me speculating off of 1 or 2 sentences from just some interview, but
right.
it's already got the engine revving for me.
Yeah, and because there's a lot of different actors who have come out saying to be Bond, because everybody knows
Exactly.
Daniel Craig is coming to an end. Somebody's going to have to take over the reins, and that's usually a big commitment. I think what is one who didn't have like a big run?
He did 2, and George Lazenby did 1.
Okay, but it's typically a full-on long kind of commitment, which is what has scared off some people. I think committing to something where they got to say, "This is what I'm going to be doing for years." I mean, I think Daniel Craig's been Bond for I don't even know how long. I don't remember when Casino Royale came out.
I think it was 06.
06?
06, I believe so. So he's been, this is 14 years. Should have been 13 if it came out last year. But still, he's only been able to do a few other projects here and there. And, it is, like you said, it's a huge time commitment when they want a 2, 3, 4 picture guarantee. And, maybe going forward, they'll have to pivot away from that. If they're not getting the actors they want, they'll say, "Oh, I'll do 2, or I'll do a movie by movie basis." And maybe we do just get a kind of more of a revolving door of Bond. It'd be something different. I like that when they do the continuous series, you get to kind of get to know the character. Each era has their own unique feel. Roger Moore's was super campy, way different than the others.
Right.
Daniel Craig's is kind of the spy action espionage thriller type. Pierce Brosnan's is just kind of good, dumb action fun.
Yeah.
So it'd be a different route to go, but especially with the changing landscape and everything else, it might be something they need to reconsider. Do they force actors to take on this huge, potentially decade-long commitment to one project?
Right. And it's not just a time commitment, because then it also becomes like your image, your persona. So many actors who get linked to a character like that character as iconic as Bond, and then play him for so long, that's all people think of him. And then it can be hard to kind of venture out. Like Pierce Brosnan, everybody thinks, when they think Pierce Brosnan, they think of his role as Bond. He didn't have a whole lot of other standout positions that were really as major of an iconic role as that. So I think that's kind of another fear for some people. But as far as the interview and some Spider-Man news, I know Tom Holland said, jokingly, I'm assuming, that Marvel has not told him whether or not Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are in Spider-Man 3. I'm assuming he's saying that as kind of coy, trying to avoid the subject, because he's been known to spoil things. So that to me is a good sign, actually, that he says this, that we are getting it. I mean, that's more of a confirmation than a denial, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the better running bits, in not just the MCU, but kind of any fun movie industry thing, that Tom Holland can't keep a secret, that they send him on interviews with other actors as his handlers, basically cut him off if he starts to say too much. And so it's fun that he can play into it, that he's not self-conscious about it or upset that people were having fun with him about it, but that he can join in on the joke as well. But even if they didn't tell him, he would have to know, just based on the movie. Unless he has 0 scenes with those other guys.
Or if they only give him a limited script at a time. Sometimes they do that. Sometimes they'll just say, you don't get to read the whole script. I don't think that they did that here, to the extent that he doesn't know it's a Spider-Verse movie. But I know there have been times where people only get a script to film at a time.
Yeah, but like you said, he didn't deny it, and so a non-denial can basically feel like a confirmation.
Right. So there was also been this Instagram going out that Sony was using, putting out pieces of like the Daily Bugle and some newspapers things, J. Jonah Jameson articles and stuff that kind of hinted at some stuff coming up. And I think the Instagram also released an image of Ned with what a lot of people think was major foreshadowing of him becoming like a hobgoblin, which was an image that looks like a hat coming off of the top of his head, a background design. It's very reminiscent of Hobgoblin's costume. What do you think?
One thing that's changed pretty recently for me, it's all thanks to WandaVision, and we'll get into that a little later today as well. But I am really enjoying not like speculating on what's to come and just taking things as they're presented to us. With the week by week episodes, it's, you're not getting it all at once, and it's kind of a nice change of pace. And I feel like subconsciously I've just been doing that with other news and movies and whatnot, that I'm not going out searching for plot leaks or speculation. Like, I'm not that I was big into it before, but I would do it a little bit here and there. Like, if there's Black Panther news, I'm gonna search out and see, oh, this character is gonna be in it, and something like this. I'm, if I see it, on Instagram or Twitter feed, I'm not gonna get upset about it or by any means, but I think I'm just, at least for the foreseeable future, I'm just gonna let things kind of come as they will. Obviously, there's things we'll have to talk about here, but if Ned becomes a Hobgoblin, cool. I'm excited to see it play out on the screen, but I'm not going to put too much stock or effort into, digging into the pixels of any given picture.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I think, he lost a lot of weight. We've seen that in pictures. I think some people are speculating that that's because he's gearing up for his villain role here. But yeah, there's just so much speculation about Spider-Man. That's what 90% of what we know about it is. What we don't actually know, we just know, we're speculating.
Plus he could just be he could be an alternate universe Hobgoblin too. That mainline Ned, or whatever you want to call it, Alpha Ned, whatever the term is going to be. He's hopefully will still just be old lovable Ned. I don't want to really see him become a villain, but I think it'd be really interesting, if they are universe hopping, to see one version of Ned be a bad guy.
Right, and that's probably the route they would take, just because they're overloading at least everything that we keep hearing. If everything we heard was true, this movie is going to be packed to the gills with tons of different characters. So I think either building up for future things, or, like you said, quick little, tidbits from a multiverse, probably where it's going to go.
Yep.
All right, so the Golden Globes released some nominations. I don't know if a ton of people follow the Golden Globes. Probably not a huge number of our, watchers follow it, but I figured we could at least take a look at some of the major categories. Have you looked at the nominations?
Yeah, I have. And, the Golden Globes, for lack of a better word, is kind of a dumpster fire, hot mess, whatever you want to call it. Not exactly known for their inclusivity or diversity in their nominations. There's always a few head scratching decisions, like Emily in Paris, nominated for Best Television Series, Musical or Comedy. That was kind of out of nowhere. There's things like that. It's nice to see. So, like Promising Young Woman, we've talked about a few times on the show. That got some big nominations, which is awesome to see. But then Golden Globes, it's more, for me at least, it's one of the more fun shows to watch, because it's kind of like the party awards. People just kind of go in there and hang out, have some drinks and whatnot. But the actual awards themselves, the more thing that gets me the most excited is that's the beginning of award season. And the last couple of years, I've really gotten more into that. And it just kind of kicks it off. And, Golden Globe nominations, they can be a fairly decent precursor of who's going to get nominated at the Oscars, the SAG Awards, which I think we'll touch on a little bit here as well, maybe more so of that. But, love to see Ted Lasso get a Best Television Series nomination. Jason Sudeikis got the Best Actor nomination. But the one that was really going around, well, there's two. There's Jared Leto for the Little Things, got a supporting actor nomination, which people felt kind of came out of nowhere. And then if you look closely at the Best Actress, Musical or Comedy category, Kate Hudson in something called Music. And the discourse around that, if you looked much at that when it was announced, that movie, very few people have even seen. A lot of controversy around it, because it was directed by Sia, the musician, and it portrays an autistic teen, and played by Maddie Ziegler, I believe, not autistic. So people had issue with that. But I guess the portrayal of it, people called just straight up offensive and a really poor representation. And basically nobody's seen this movie, and Kate Hudson just gets a nomination for it. It's like it's one of those just vintage Golden Globes. What are you guys even doing moments?
Right.
But like I said, it's more so just like, okay, award season is here. Let's see where the big ones go from this point on.
Now, did you end up watching The Little Things? I know we talked about it last week.
I did. I was a little nervous to report back after you gave it a pretty positive review. I was not much of a fan of it.
I would 6. I would give it around a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean Jared Leto was good, but he seemed to be the only person who recognized what type of movie he was in.
Right.
And I thought Rami Malek was borderline bad in this performance. I was not impressed by what he did there, which is weird because obviously he was phenomenal as Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody. He was great on Mr. Robot.
Yeah.
But that the ending really irked me. That it was kind of just the final nail in the coffin. It just didn't seem, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it didn't seem earned, the direction they took it. Which is disappointing because
was my favorite part. Like the way that they wrapped it up. I'll say that. Not the finale climax, which I thought, was ridiculous and unbelievable, but the way that the story ended, I thought I really enjoyed the kind of ambiguity that they kind of laid out.
Yep, that part I appreciated because not enough movies do that, but the way they got to that point, it's kind of like Game of Thrones, the way that ended. If you just look at the character endpoints, you could make a case that it made sense. There was the right place for them to end up, but the way that they took to get there was just a mess in that final season. And that's kind of how I felt about this, is that, yeah, I could see the characters ending up where they ended up when it was all said and done. But it just, for me, it just kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. Like, oh, and then this thing happened. And now that's the case. And it didn't really do enough for me, at least, to set that turn up. But, it was an HBO Max movie. Watch from the comfort of your own home.
Yeah, that's the thing. I didn't have to pay anything for it. And I appreciated it being in a movie drought, getting something new, getting these actors. I mean, 6.5 out of 10. That's how I feel. It wasn't great, but I enjoyed watching it. From the middle, I felt like it did kind of drag. It didn't hold the suspense that it was trying to. But as a whole, I was okay with having watched it.
Right.
All right. Well, since we're kind of doing little reviews here, why don't we touch on WandaVision episode 4 review, spoiler review for anyone who hasn't seen it, which hopefully you have because episode 5 is coming up tomorrow morning. What did you think? I know we both raved about episodes 1 through 3. What did you think of 4?
Loved it again. Yeah. I mean, I kind of figured an episode like this was coming in the sense that they would focus outside of Westview. Because if you think about it, they're going decade by decade. So they did the 50s, 60s, 70s. Then they've got 6 more episodes with, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 10s, and 20s maybe. So that would leave one extra episode. Assuming they keep that main, they might skip from the 70s to the 90s. We don't know exactly what they're going to do, but thinking if they were to keep that same timeline, that there would be one episode where they would kind of leave it out. And it was fun to see kind of the other characters catch up to where the viewers were, in a sense, because they ended up with, oh, Wanda's doing this. Like, oh yeah, the viewers are like, obviously she's doing this, but you saw the first 3 episodes and they were kind of watching the show, if you will, from the beginning. And I mean, Randall Park, I will never say no to Randall Park on my screen. Loved that he finally got the magic trick down when he was showing his ID. That was a fun little Easter egg callback to Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm still 100% in. I love still if they're just kind of doling out little pieces here and there. I saw one take on Twitter which just pissed me off. It was basically some just random guy saying this show is bad because I don't know what's happening yet. It's like guy, It's half over. The season's only half over. What do you expect? And that's what we talked about before with the binge versus the weekly release. And I am absolutely loving the weekly release.
Yeah, still. I agree with you. So yeah, this episode was a huge departure from what the first three were. Now, Fandom Wire, for us to do reviews, we got to watch the first three. Disney gave us the first three episodes before the first episode aired, and we got to watch them. And it's obvious why they gave us the three and stopped right there, because those three, everything changed after that. And by the end of that third one, is when they were really up the suspense of what's going to happen. Things are starting to break, and then they just broke it all open. I included the blip from the blip, and that was a big part. That was a big part of how the episode opened up. I thought that was really cool to see, and it lets us know pretty much exactly where in the timeline this show is happening. I loved it. I thought they answered a lot of the questions, but there's still plenty of questions to come. And now, since I got to see the first few episodes early, but then not this one, I had a time avoiding spoilers for the fourth. I was online and stuff. They were popping up everywhere. So I think tomorrow I'm going to get up real early and just watch it first thing before I even go to work, just to avoid the spoilers. Now, where do you think that's going?
I have no idea. I mean, with this show more than any other, like when Falcon and Winter Soldier comes out, I feel like not that we'll be able to predict the exact plot points, but it might be easier to get a general idea of where it's going to end at the end of the season. Yeah. Whereas this one, it could literally go anywhere. And I love that fact. I love it. Now, a couple points to note. So in a couple interviews with Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany, he's on the Lights Camera Barstool podcast last week, I think, and he said that there's an actor that he had some scenes with in WandaVision that he hadn't worked with before that he's very excited about. Kind of left that as a tease. So people are thinking maybe Benedict Cumberbatch will kind of come in as the tie-in to the multiverse part and kind of help solve the whatever problems are happening here. Then Elizabeth Olsen said there's one more big time cameo coming that she equated to Mando quick spoilers for anybody, season 2 finale, that she equated it to when Luke Skywalker shows up at the end. And then so there's the question, are they talking about the same person, or are there two different big characters still to show up? And the idea that I like, Jason Concepcion of Binge Mode fame and now Crooked Media, he tweeted this out. First person I saw who had the thought was that the big time cameo could maybe be Magneto, like if you're going like way out there. And maybe he comes into, because in the comics, I think we've touched this on this one or two times before, he's Wanda's father. And it'd be a way to introduce mutants into the MCU. And it'd be completely unexpected. But the part of that I really like is that if people are thinking Wanda's going to become more of a villain or more of an anti-hero, this could be kind of her final footing in the door, teaming up with her father Magneto, or just Magneto even not as her father, because he's one of the villains where you kind of agree with his overarching point, even if you don't necessarily agree with how he does things. And I think if they take Wanda down the villain path, that's what you need to do. You can't make her a Thanos or a Doctor Doom or a Hela who's just pure villain, but you give her some real conflict where she's got a point with whatever her ultimate plans would be, but maybe her strategy isn't quite in line with what you'd like to see out of your heroes. But so with the 3 episodes left, that's what I'm going to be watching for. Maybe clues within each episode as to who might be showing up by the time it wraps up.
I mean, I think that this season finale of this is going to be just huge. That they're going to make this so huge because they've said it ties directly into Strange, and it ties directly in Man 3. I'm just so excited to see where it goes, and I know that the moment that it ends, it is going to create just a tension and an eagerness to see where it's going to go, and that's the part that I'm dreading. That's the part that's going to take forever. Something awesome is going to happen, and then I'm going to go, well, time to sit and wait for Spider-Man 3. And that's going to stink, because right now Spider-Man 3 is in December. I can wait till December, but it's that delay that I'm dreading, that I know is almost certainly going to come, that has been one after another. So,
yeah.
I'll touch on this next time we show back up, because we're going to watch first thing in the morning, or at least I am. I'm sure you'll be watching tomorrow. And then
Absolutely.
I'm eager to talk about the next episode. You want to give us a recommendation before we go anywhere?
Yeah, I can give one or two here. I'm gonna go back to the Apple TV Plus with their movie that just came out last week, Palmer. It stars Justin Timberlake, and he plays a character who, when the movie opens, he's just released from jail. Won't tell you what he did. You find out eventually, but it's not a huge deal, but might as well leave it. But he's in jail for 10 or 12 years, and he comes back home to live with his grandmother, and her grandmother owns a trailer on her property that she rents to a drug addict mother played by Juno Temple, and her son played by, I think, Ryder Allen, maybe is his name, first time actor. And with that, I mean, he's plays probably a 10, 11-year-old, and he crushes it. But then the kid kind of becomes a de facto son to Timberlake's grandmother, with his mom, with all the troubles. She's in and out, disappear for days at a time. And then, but just by Palmer being back home, he kind of starts to grow close to the kid, and then he kind of helps him, or Sam, the kid, helps Palmer kind of get back on his feet, get his life back in order. And it's just it was a really surprising movie that, Justin Timberlake, he's shown some acting chops before, often comedic. I'm a big fan of Friends with Benefits, him and Mila Kunis. But this is it. In this one, it's got comedic moments, but it's really a drama, and he's really good in it. He was really good, and the kid, for a first time, I think, an interview with Fisher Stevens directed it. An interview, I think he said the kid had like one non-speaking commercial part prior to this. I have that right?
Right.
Basically next to no, real acting experience, and you wouldn't think it watching him on the screen. He plays kind of a different kid. He doesn't do things that typical Southern 10-year-old boy would do, so he gets picked on a lot. And that's kind of what draws Palmer to him. It kind of helps him stand up for himself and all that. And it was a really just kind of tugging at your heartstrings movie. And, I don't know if Apple is making a push now for better content, or if they just kind of lucked out a little bit with Ted Lasso and now this. Right. But, their last two things I've watched from them have been really good.
Apple TV, aren't they who released that Bill Murray movie On the Rocks?
Yes, that was them. I've not seen that one, but I've heard decent to good things about it. Yeah.
I haven't seen it because I don't have Apple TV, but I wanted to see it. Well, yeah, that sounds good. I think eventually I'm going to have to get Apple TV just to kind of stay up on all the entertainment, catch these movies that you've been talking about.
I think what I would do if I were you is I would wait for, unless they come up with a bunch that get like Oscar nominated and you've got to see them, I would wait till there's like a backlog, and then get the free week trial and just knock out as much as you can, and then see what's left over, if it's worth it to get it for a month or two or ongoing.
Right. Yeah, so that sounds like a plan. For my recommendation, since there's so little coming out, I decided to kind of go back a little bit, and I tried to find like a forgotten film a while ago that was really good that people maybe haven't seen or haven't talked about. And one that I absolutely love that I rewatched this week is with Kurt Russell. Have you seen that movie?
I have not, no.
It was playing, where did I stream it? It was on Prime, I believe, Amazon Prime. And I own this movie on DVD, but I was just scrolling through, and I saw it, and I said, oh, I love that movie. It's from the 90s, and it's like an action thriller. So Kurt Russell and his wife are driving through. They're on a big kind of like road trip, and they're driving through this dusty town. And their car breaks down. They pull over, and a semi truck comes by, and he's like, "I can give you guys a ride, up to the gas station. You can call for help." So the wife ends up catching a ride with him, and Russell Crowe just sits there. Eventually, he goes looking for his wife, can't find her. And when he finds the semi-truck driver, he's like, "I don't know who you are. I've never seen you." And he denies ever having seen the wife. And so then Kurt Russell is like running through this dusty, dirty little town, and people are like, "Oh, we know where she's at, and you're not going to like it." And it's like a mystery has to unfold where he's hunting for his wife in this kind of desolate in the middle of nowhere. And it's really good suspense. It's got some great action, and Kurt Russell amazing in it like he normally is. So if you like this type of movies, it's a great 90s flick. I would check it out on Amazon Prime.
I mean, love some Kurt Russell. That got my attention right away. I mean, I recently watched Tango and Cash for the first time. What that movie's a
yeah.
You said it's on Prime.
Yes, I believe that's where I saw it was on Prime, and definitely
I'll check that one out for sure. Then
yeah, it's only like an hour and a half.
Yeah, it sounds exactly like an hour and a half, hour 35, just quick and easy, absurd action movie. Sounds like a great watch. I'll definitely get around to that one.
Yeah. All right, guys. You want to give us another recommendation? I heard you said you had one or two.
Yeah, if you'll allow me some shameless self-promotion here, I actually started another podcast with a couple of friends of mine called The Gnome Boys. That's kind of an inside joke. We explained it in the first episode, but it's basically just us, three friends just hanging out. So we've talked movies, we've talked conspiracy theories, we've done a fictional villain draft, got an NFL talk coming out. Next week, we're doing top 5 romantic comedies. So whatever kind of is on our mind, we'll just talk about. We'll have our friends on, talk about whatever they want to talk about. Just a good, kind of give the vibe of just hanging out with friends. So we're everywhere. Get podcasts, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever. Again, that's the Gnome Boys. Again, inside joke. We explain it. Episodes out every Friday morning. So give us a listen. Not every episode will be for everybody. The topics change, but see what you think. Give us a download, give us a review, and love to see you there.
That sounds good. I'll definitely check it out. I'm always up for some new podcasts, and I like listening to you and your opinion. So that sounds like something I am definitely game to listen to. Besides, it was a short week. We don't have a whole lot to talk about, so I think we're just gonna wrap this up. Unless you have anything pressing, Matt, anything you need to get off your heart.
I don't think so. Next week is the 1-year anniversary of Parasite winning Best Picture, so maybe go watch Parasite.
Oh yeah, listen. Anytime someone wants to recommend watching Parasite, I am on board for that. I love that movie. I already have the 4K Blu-ray, but Criterion Collection recently released a Blu-ray of it, and I collect the Criterion Collection movies. And they also just announced that they will be releasing Memories of Murder is coming out in April, so I'll be checking out that one as well.
Couple of solid purchases.
But all right, yeah, we'll end it on that note. Go watch Parasite, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye, everybody.